Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sharing Stories Presents Book Summaries. Today we have Stillness Is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Let's dive right into it. What does this book have to offer?
Well, it makes a pretty radical argument right off the bat. I mean, in a modern world that is completely obsessed with constant hustle, endless optimization, and, reacting to every single notification you get, this book suggests that doing absolutely nothing might actually be the answer.
Doing nothing.
Right, or, well, at least finding a really deep sense of internal quiet. It argues that this stillness might actually be your ultimate competitive advantage.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that is quite the claim to make to an audience that's probably listening to us right now while commuting or, doing the dishes or answering a dozen emails.
Oh, absolutely. It feels totally counterintuitive.
Right. And before we unpack how that actually works, I think it really helps to look at the guy making this claim. Because Ryan Holiday is presenting us with this big philosophical framework.
Yeah.
But he is far from, some academic theorizing from an ivory tower.
He really isn't. He has managed to become one of the world's best-selling living philosophers, basically by translating ancient wisdom for the modern world.
Yeah, and he's written massive, massive hits.
Exactly.
Bring your book to life with AI. Plotsformovies.com helps you create movie-like trailers for your book, allowing filmmakers to visualize your story, just the way you imagined it while writing. Enhance the storytelling experience to a whole new level with realistic characters, immersive voiceovers, and cinematic sound effects. No more boring stock images or generic clips. Captivate your audience, spark curiosity, make readers and filmmakers eager to explore more. Plotsformovies.com, where your story becomes cinema.
Books like The Obstacle is the Way, The Daily Stoic. We are talking about translations in over 40 languages and I think over 5 million copies sold worldwide.
But, the contrast in how he actually lives is what I think sets the stage for everything we're talking about today in this deep dive.
Oh, for sure. Walk us through that.
Well, you have this globally recognized thinker, right? He's a sought-after advisor for NFL coaches, Olympic athletes, Silicon Valley CEOs. You'd totally expect him to be living in a penthouse in New York, constantly flying from one boardroom to the next.
Yeah, living out of a suitcase.
Exactly. But instead, his day-to-day life is just incredibly grounded. He lives outside Austin, Texas. He keeps a herd of cows, donkeys, and goats with his family.
Goats, yeah.
And he runs this independent brick-and-mortar bookstore called The Painted Porch, just right on a historic main street.
And that intentional lifestyle, it's really the perfect physical embodiment of the book's core concept. I mean, he is absolutely practicing what he preaches.
So he's living the stillness.
He is. But to fully grasp what the book has to offer, we really need to clarify what stillness actually means. Because the most common misconception is that stillness is just, inactivity.
Right, like checking out completely.
Exactly. People picture someone retreating from society, sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak for 10 years, just tuning out reality.
Which honestly sounds incredibly boring. Not to mention, completely impossible for anyone who has a mortgage to pay.
Completely impossible. And Holiday dismantles that idea immediately. Stillness is not about freezing or disengaging from the world. It is a highly active state of self-mastery.
Okay, just an active state.
Yeah. If we look at the historical traditions he draws from, the Zen Buddhists describe this quality as a profound inner peace that you maintain regardless of external circumstances. And the ancient Stoics, they refer to it as ataraxia.
Ataraxia. Let's dig into that term for a second, because that doesn't just mean apathy, right?
Far from it, actually. Ataraxia translates roughly to an untroubled mind, but the mechanics behind it are fascinating. The Stoics believe that the world is inherently chaotic and completely indifferent to your plans.
As we all figure out eventually.
Right. You cannot control the weather, you can't control the economy or the opinions of other people, but you retain absolute control over your internal judgments.
Okay, I see.
So ataraxia is the state of having a fortified inner citadel. It is the ability to be steady, focused, and totally alert in a world that is incredibly noisy and competitive without letting that noise breach your walls.
When you put it like that, I don't picture a lifeless rock or a monk hiding from the world. It makes me think of, the eye of a hurricane.
Oh, I really love that visual. Walk me through how you see it.
Well, out there, beyond the eye, the winds are absolutely howling. You've got your information overload, the endless career pressures, the, manufactured outrage we see on our feeds every single day trying to get a rise out of us.
Constantly.
Yeah, the modern world is just swirling chaotically. But if you have cultivated this ataraxia, this stillness, You aren't being thrown around by the wind. You found this incredibly steady, focused, calm center right in the middle of the storm.
That is so true.
The storm is still happening all around you, but you aren't a victim of it.
That captures the essence of the philosophy perfectly. And to build that calm center, to, construct that eye of the hurricane, we have to start where the storm actually causes the most damage.
Which is where?
Well, it doesn't hit our bodies first. It hits our thoughts. The first dimension of stillness is the mind. A restless, constantly stimulated mind inevitably leads to poor decisions, chronic anxiety, and just a total inability to focus.
Yes, the feeling of having 50 browser tabs open in your brain all at once. The system just bogs down.
Exactly. And Holiday argues that you absolutely cannot think clearly if your mental landscape is that chaotic. So to cure it, he points to some actionable practices.
Like what?
Things like intentional reflection, deep reading, meditation, and specifically journaling and finding pure solitude.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who's currently overwhelmed. Let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
In a fast-paced, cutthroat world where everyone feels behind, sitting alone in a room with a journal feels like you are doing absolutely nothing.
It feels like a waste of time.
Right. If I have 50 unread emails, a looming deadline, and real-world problems to solve, how does sitting quietly help me achieve my ambitions? It feels completely counterproductive to progress.
And that tension right there is the central paradox of the book. But the answer lies in the mechanics of how our brains actually process complex problems.
Okay.
When you have those 50 browser tabs open, your brain's working memory is totally overwhelmed. You are operating in a reactive state, basically just swatting at whatever is closest to your face.
Survival mode.
Yes. So journaling isn't about writing a Dear Diary entry. It is a cognitive release valve. It forces you to externalize that chaotic loop of thoughts, putting them onto paper so your brain doesn't have to expend precious energy holding on to them.
So you're basically offloading the mental burden.
Precisely. And the historical examples Holiday provides really prove the point here. He looks at figures who faced pressure that makes our daily deadlines look, frankly, trivial.
Like who?
Well, take John F. Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Wow, okay. The ultimate high-stakes situation.
The highest. The Soviet Union was putting nuclear missiles in Cuba. Kennedy's top generals were aggressively pushing him to launch an immediate, massive airstrike.
Which would have been catastrophic.
Right. If his mind was restless and reactive, he would have instantly given the order, likely sparking World War III. But Holiday details how Kennedy engineered his own stillness.
How did he do that?
He would physically step away from his advisors. He swam in the White House pool just to find solitude. He took quiet walks in the Rose Garden. He deliberately bought himself time to process the information, avoiding that knee-jerk reaction.
He had to step out of the wind to find the eye of the hurricane.
He did. And consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. He didn't successfully govern an empire during a horrific plague and constant frontier warfare by running around in a panic.
Right. He wrote Meditations.
Exactly. He sat alone in his war tent and wrote. He used journaling to untangle his anxieties and clarify his logic. Even Anne Frank found profound, enduring clarity while in unimaginable, terrifying confinement just by turning to her diary.
Those examples really shift the perspective. Because solitude and reflection aren't doing nothing at all. They are the active processes of sharpening the instrument you use to solve every problem, which is your mind.
Exactly.
If your mind is dull and frantic, any action you take is just thrashing in the water, exhausting yourself. You're pausing to aim the arrow rather than just firing blindly as fast as you can.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. But the philosophy doesn't stop there. Because you could have a beautifully sharp, entirely clear intellect. You could be a strategic genius. But if your underlying emotional motivations are toxic or selfish, that mental clarity will only help you destroy yourself faster.
Oof. A sharp mind driven by a dark soul.
Exactly the danger Holiday warns about. And this leads us to the second dimension of stillness, which is the spirit. You can have all the mental stillness in the world, but if your ego is out of control, or if you are consumed by jealousy, your emotional state will constantly sabotage your peace.
Right, because you're internally at war.
Yes. Cultivating stillness here requires emotional well-being. It takes humility, immense gratitude, compassion, and the discipline to intentionally let go of resentment.
It's about stepping off that exhausting, endless treadmill of external validation. Listening to you describe the mechanics of ego and resentment, it honestly reminds me of computer RAM, random access memory.
Oh, I like that. Walk me through that analogy.
So imagine your brain is a computer. If you aren't clearing things out, you have all these heavy, invisible background applications constantly running.
Right, eating up your memory.
Exactly. Let's say you have a program called Needing Everyone's Approval running 24/7, and you have another app called Holding On to That Grudge from 5 years ago, and a massive firewall called Protecting My Fragile Ego.
Sounds exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
Those apps might be invisible, but they are draining incredible amounts of your battery and your processing power.
And the tragic part is, most of us don't even realize those programs are running in the background. We just wonder why we feel so drained all the time.
Exactly. We think we are tired from our jobs, but we are actually exhausted by our egos. If you can use stillness to force quit those emotional background apps, suddenly you have this massive surge of processing power left over. You actually have the baseline energy required for authentic fulfillment and, genuine inner peace.
I am absolutely adopting that RAM analogy because it perfectly illustrates the biological costs of toxic emotions. Anger and jealousy require constant caloric fuel. They keep your nervous system in a perpetual state of agitation.
They really do.
But when you shut them down through forgiveness and humility, you free up profound space. And what we fill that space with is vital. Holiday points to Oprah Winfrey to illustrate this.
Oh, wow. What does she demonstrate about emotional stillness?
He highlights how she developed deep empathy from a very quiet, often isolated and difficult childhood. She learned to become an observer. Stillness, particularly emotional stillness, creates the necessary space for genuine compassion to grow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think about it. If you are entirely consumed by your own ego, if your internal monologue is screaming about your own insecurities, you literally cannot hear anyone else. You cannot connect.
Right, there's no room for anybody else in there.
Exactly. Oprah's unparalleled ability to connect with millions of people stems from a foundation of deep, empathetic stillness. She isn't performing, she is holding space.
We at sharingstoriespodcast bring you insightful book summaries. This content is supported by plots4movies.com, an AI-enabled book trailer platform where you can watch 1-minute trailers of books to understand them better before you buy them.
And coming out of that, we really have to look at the final piece of the puzzle. We've established how to clear the mind, and we've talked about force quitting the toxic emotional apps of the spirit.
Right.
But here is the hard truth. You can have a brilliantly clear mind and a pure, ego-free spirit, but you absolutely cannot sustain either of those if the physical machine is breaking down.
Yeah, the hardware needs maintenance. If the computer's overheating and the battery is dead, it doesn't matter how great the software is.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third dimension, the body. Physical health isn't just a lifestyle bonus here. It is the foundational support for mental and emotional balance.
Which is funny because you don't usually hear philosophers talking about hitting the gym.
No, you don't. Philosophy usually stays up in the clouds debating abstract thoughts. It rarely addresses the profound importance of, simply taking a nap. But Holiday is emphatic about the physical engine of stillness.
What does he emphasize?
He breaks down the absolute necessity of sleep, of rigorous exercise, actual unplugged rest, proper nutrition, and spending time physically walking in nature.
It's the biology of stillness. When you are sleep deprived, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, it becomes hyperreactive. You literally lose the neurological capacity to be calm.
Right, and your cortisol levels spike, keeping you in a constant fight-or-flight state. You cannot think your way out of a physiological deficit. The body has to be grounded first.
There is a specific historical anecdote from the sources about grounding the body that I just find absolutely wild. It involves Winston Churchill.
Oh, the bricklaying. Yeah, it is one of the best examples in the entire book.
Let's set the scene for the listener. You have Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, literally orchestrating the defense of his nation during World War II.
The pressure is just unfathomable.
Unfathomable. The Blitz is happening, bombs are physically falling on London, and the fate of the free world is resting on his shoulders. So what does this man do in his downtime to recharge and reflect? He builds physical walls.
It's amazing.
He engages in actual physical bricklaying on his country estate.
It's such a jarring contrast. I mean, the man fighting a global war against fascism is out in the garden mixing mortar.
Right. But it proves that stillness is not about booking a luxury spa day. It is about finding an activity that anchors your physical body so your mind and spirit can reset.
And the mechanism behind why that works is so crucial. Think about the tactile, rhythmic nature of laying a brick. You have to mix the cement to the right consistency. You place the brick. You scrape the excess mortar. You check the level to make sure it's perfectly straight.
It takes all your attention.
Exactly. That process demands physical presence. It forces the brain out of its default mode network, which is where we obsess and worry, and brings it entirely into the physical present. Churchill intuitively understood that he couldn't just sit in a leather chair and worry about troop movements 24 hours a day. His brain would have snapped. His body needed a totally different kind of engagement to support his immense mental endurance.
He was actively meditating with bricks and mortar. And I think that universality, the fact that this relies on basic human biology and psychology, is exactly why the book's message resonates across such wildly different fields today.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this isn't just a manual for monks or wartime prime ministers.
Not at all. The praise for this philosophy spans every industry imaginable. You have Manu Ginobili, a 4-time NBA champion, calling it a must-read for athletes.
That's huge.
You have Sophia Amoruso, a highly successful entrepreneur, pointing out that learning to be still is the secret to moving forward in business. You even have Cal Newport, the productivity expert who wrote Deep Work, saying this book distills true wisdom.
Because the biology doesn't care what your job title is. Whether you are a professional athlete trying to make a split-second read on the court, an investor navigating a terrifyingly volatile market, or just a student heading into finals week.
Right.
If you sleep 4 hours a night, if you never move your body, if your eyes never leave a glowing rectangle to look at a tree, you are going to be a reactive, anxious mess. Your performance will tank.
The physical habits of stillness lead to a healthier, less anxious life for every single human being. It is our universal operating system. When you give the body what it needs, the mind can finally settle and the spirit can finally breathe.
So when we zoom all the way out and look at the big takeaway for our listeners today, it really demands a massive paradigm shift. The core message we are pulling from all these sources is that true strength and lasting fulfillment are not found through constant, frantic activity.
They absolutely are not. We have been sold a lie that more activity equals more value.
You won't find fulfillment in endless productivity hacks that just help you do the wrong things faster. And you definitely won't find it by engaging with the manufactured outrage that begs for your attention online.
No, you won't.
True strength is found through intentional living. It's about creating deliberate, fiercely protected space for presence, nurturing that stillness across your mind, your spirit, and your body.
And that leads to a provocative final thought that I'd like to leave everyone with today. Because we are so deeply conditioned to always be doing something, I want you to consider a radical alternative.
I'm listening.
The most productive, ambitious thing you can do for your life today might not be sending one more email. It might not be checking one more feed or crossing one more tiny task off a to-do list. The most productive thing you could possibly do today might just be stepping away to be entirely still for 5 unbroken minutes.
5 minutes of stepping into the eye of the hurricane.
Yes. Take a truly honest look at your days and ask yourself a difficult question. Where in my own life am I confusing mere motion with actual progress? Are you just spinning wildly in the winds of the storm, or are you doing the quiet, necessary work of building your center?
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on. Motion is not progress. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. Please make sure to subscribe and support the channel so we can keep bringing you these insights. Buy the book through the link in the description. And finally, head down to the comments and let us know, comment with the book you want us to discuss in the next podcast. Until next time.